New prediction has come in from Brian Doan over there at 24/7 Sports for Kemon Spell to commit to Penn State. Now he's not committed yet. All right, don't get that twisted or anything like that. But as of tonight, Sunday night, January 18th, there is a prediction currently in for Kemon Spell to go to Penn State. We don't cover a ton of recruiting on this podcast just because it is a lot of recruiting to do, and we want to try to cover the entire Big Ten. But with big stuff like this, especially with Matt Campbell being new over there at Penn State, this kind of commitment would do a ton for him, a ton for the program, a ton for the trajectory of the coaching staff and everything else. We have our guy Chris here with us once again, the Penn State guy, to talk about Penn State and talk a little bit about recruiting here and everything that's going on. Chris, give us the insight. What's going on here with Kemon Spell? Is he committing? Obviously, he's not committed yet, but what's going on here, and how excited should Penn State fans be for this development?
I think they should be pretty excited. So from everything I gathered, there was somebody that put something out on Twitter saying he committed and talking about some other things that I'll get into. He hasn't committed yet. Who's ever reading that Twitter thing saying he committed, they're jumping the gun. He hasn't officially committed yet. But Brian Doan's a national guy. He doesn't put stuff out without, he's pretty good at his job doing his due diligence. And things are moving pretty fast for Kemon Spell with Penn State. Georgia is the main contender here, but I do think Penn State's in a very good spot. So just recently, well, not recently, but since when Matt Campbell got hired, he was on Kemon Spell immediately. That's been reported. Like, he made him a priority, and just recently Campbell and Terry were in Western PA to visit some recruits. They visited Gabriel Jenkins, Adamani, Christian, I believe it's called, Khalil Taylor, who's a top Western PA wide receiver. And they stopped in, they visited Kemon Spell. They made him a priority. Things went very well. And a lot of rumors out there right now that, and again, this was on Twitter and other places. The speculation's all over the place. So I'm, not stealing anybody's info. But here's the big surprise people don't know that I think is probably going to happen, reading all the tea leaves. Kemon Spell is looking to reclassify to 2026. Kemon Spell could very well end up being Penn State's starting running back next year. So that's kind of like breaking news that I just saw today or recently from Twitter and other places. So, and I'm not taking anybody's info. It's not my info. It's, stuff on message boards, stuff on Twitter. It's out there. It's pretty public now what's going on. He is looking to reclassify. Is it going to happen for sure? I don't know. But the way the tea leaves read is he's going to reclassify. And part of what I believe Campbell and Terry sold was early playing time. Like he's a priority, getting on the field early, reclassified to 26, get in here early. You could be, I'm not saying he promised him a starting role. Obviously, he's going to have to earn that. But being as good as he is, I can't see how he doesn't see the field next year if he does, in fact, reclassify. I think he's going to. I do think he, like I said, Brian Doan's pretty good at his job. I do think he's probably going to commit to Penn State. But this isn't definite. He's had, supposedly this is moving pretty fast. He does have visits set up to Georgia and other places. And I don't know if Georgia and Ohio State, Notre Dame, but I know Georgia he has a visit set up to, I think, January 31st or 30th, around there. But if he's reclassifying and things are moving fast in Penn State's favor, Penn State might lock him up pretty soon. We'll have to see. But that's boding very well for Penn State. And with Penn State signing that Adidas deal, I do think this is a type of recruit where Adidas comes into play. Now, I don't know everything about what they do with NIL. Nobody knows exactly everything. But what I do know is they were given $30 million. Pat Kraft gave Matt Campbell $30 million to build a roster. That $30 million is revenue and NIL combined. This Adidas, I think if the Adidas part might be a separate endorsement, might not be part of that 30 million. Because from my understanding, that the revenue in the Adidas, the revenue re-ups on July 1st. And that's when the Adidas money kicks in. So even though we're not at July 1st, being there into the recruiting of the 2027 guys, they could still work out deals using Adidas and using the revenue re-up come July 21st. Now, I don't know if the revenue re-up is part of this 30 million that Pat Kraft, like if the 30 million is already there and the July 1st new revenue will be more extra money, or if the July 1st revenue is something separate or, part of, however they work it out. But I do know Adidas, from my understanding, is probably going to play a big role here in getting Kemon Spell. So that's the big news I have with Kemon Spell. I actually did, when he committed almost 2 years ago, I did a write-up, because when I was with Rivals, I would have to write up just on a Word document and send it to send it to my guy Richie over at Rivals. Now, some of this I would update. I can't. I'm on a little phone, so I can't see everything. But if people want to read it, that's fine. Basically, I believe that Kemon Spell, and I saw this watching this freshman film, he will be the best running back prospect Penn State has had since Saquon Barkley. He has it all. He's 5'10", maybe not even the full 5'10", squatty back. He's built, but he's built very, very thick. He's built strong. He runs through contact. Now, on that write-up, I said he clearly has good acceleration. He's clearly fast, but I didn't have an updated 40 time. After doing that write-up from a few years ago, I do recall him being at Penn State on a visit, camp, whatever. And I remember him saying he ran a 4.3840. Like, he really doesn't have a weakness that I see. The only weakness might be pass protection a little bit, work, and any high school back's going to need probably a little work in pass protection. But he has great contact balance. Being only 5'10" and being a shorter, squatty back that's built thick, he just has great contact balance, rarely goes down at the first tackle, and just very physical running through contact, great acceleration. He's a home run hitter. If he gets into the second level, he's going to run away from you. He's not going to get caught that often, running a 4.3. And he also has good vision. I think, from watching a ton of running backs, and I gave examples of how horrible Nick Singleton's vision was, which I saw in high school as well too. I think vision for a running back is one of the most important traits. And he has very good vision. He's not as elusive as like a Saquon Barkley, but he has enough subtle cuts and jukes to make you miss. He has, he's a north-south runner, but he has enough juice, he has enough shake in him to make guys miss, get north-south, and just put his pads down, run through people, and take it the distance. So that's what I got on Kemon Spell. Guy that I would mention here that I think is a Penn State lock. And if you want to pull up his huddle film while we talk about this, you can. Elijah Reeder, he's from New Jersey. He's an edge rusher from New Jersey. He's like 6'4.5", 6'5". I think he's around 215. Very reminiscent, his game, of Chaz Coleman. Will he end up being as good as Chaz? Well, how good will Chaz Coleman end up being? We still got to wait and see. But Elijah Reeder, the one thing edge rushers, I think every edge rusher needs, is just to have that quick twitch, that quick get off, that quick burst, and just the agility to bend the corner. He has that. Somehow this guy was only a 3-star. I would expect his ranking to go up when they redo the rankings. I don't see how he, with his skill set, won't end up being a 4-star. But Elijah Reeder's a very, very good under-the-radar back in the mold of the Chaz Coleman. Obviously, we'll have to put on some weight, some size, but there you go. We could watch him really quick right here. And he was actually going to go to Iowa State with Matt Campbell. It's hard to see it, but you guys could see it.
Yeah, you can see it here. Yeah, I mean, seems like Matt Campbell is really just kind of taking things by force here. I mean, bringing in Kemon Spell, most likely Elijah Reeder here, that connection. I mean, you figured he was going to bring guys over through the transfer portal from Iowa State, but for him to be able to obviously have that connection with Elijah Reeder to possibly bring him in and then create that connection with Kemon Spell with, Terry and everything else there. I mean, for the people that had questions about if Matt Campbell's going to bring in the talent necessary, those questions are quickly being answered.
Yep, he's certainly going after it. Did you see that spin move he made? So one of Chaz Coleman's best moves was he had a deadly spin move, and one of the second or third plays from Elijah Reeder here, he showed that same type of spin move. It was awesome, and I mean the kid, he already has a little hand swipe, some chops. Like this kid's good. I don't know if he's going to be, like I said, another Chaz Coleman. But this kid, he's got length, he's got burst, he's got bend, has to get in the weight room and add size, just like a lot of edge rushers do. But this is a kid that is, I think, a lock to go to Penn State. So on to a couple other recruits if you want to talk about them. Khalil Taylor. Khalil Taylor was committed to Penn State when James Franklin was there. When everything fell apart, he decommitted, and he's looking around, be a national recruit. He's the 12th ranked receiver, according to Rivals /On3. He's 5'11", 180 pounds, plays, I don't forget the high school, but he plays in Western PA, and just a great player. Just an all-around good receiver. I don't know how updated this is, but he ran like an 11 flat in the 100-meter dash from what I saw. I think his speed is probably better than that, and that has increased. And he's a natural playmaker with the ball in his hands. Just an all-around very good receiver, good route runner, explosive. And he's also very good kicker. He had several kick returns, I believe, this year. I don't know if he returns punts as well, but I know he's a kick returner. Another guy that I would keep an eye on is Matthew Gregory. Matthew Gregory is 6 foot, 170. Well, last update was 170 pounds. He's a little speedster from another receiver. He's from Eastern PA. I forget what school he goes to, right? He's somewhere down around Delaware County area. Oral Roberts at Pottstown. Oral Roberts is a high school. It's in I believe the Pottstown area. And he ran a 10.4. He's a track guy. The guy could absolutely fly. Watching his game and Khalil Taylor's is very similar. Like on the football field, they both are burners, but Gregory could really fly. For some reason, Rivals has him listed as an athlete, but he's going to be a receiver. Everybody's recruited him as a receiver. He was close to committing to Penn State before everything happened with Franklin. In fact, Tom Loy, one of the other national guys from 24/7, put a pick in for Gregory to go to Penn State. I think it was like last March or something like that. But so he's still in the mix. We'll probably go to, hopefully we land him. As far as the job that Campbell is doing, people gave me crap because I said I hoped he would have went after a few more top players in the portal, and everybody wanted to explain to me how we had to re-sign 40-some guys as if I didn't know that. I'm glad that you shared that information. I only follow the program probably closer to most of the people watching. But, I just thought he would sign a few more top guys in the portal. He didn't, whatever, not going to get back into that. He is attacking recruiting a lot harder now. I'm very happy with him going out and getting a lot of, at least visiting, laying the groundwork to get a lot of big-time players. Some people think it's wrong to pay a money back big money, and I get that. It's not a huge position of value. Obviously quarterback's number one, and then other positions like offensive tackle, D end, their higher positions that you slot more money. But I think, a lot of people in the NFL, running backs, they just think plug and play, not a big difference. If you get an absolute stud running back at Penn, like in college, I think they are a difference maker. Like, you can't tell me if there's another Saquon Barkley out there that he wasn't worth the money. And this kid, I'm not saying he's going to be Saquon Barkley, but I do believe Kemon Spell is worth the money, because there's some arguments and debates whether you pay him or not. And, of course, once we get him, everybody will agree that he was worth getting. So where was I going to go next? Okay. Also, recently, Matt Campbell, I believe Terry, I know Matt Campbell, I don't know if he had some other assistant coaches with them, was at LaSalle High School in Pennsylvania. I believe LaSalle is the number one ranked high school as far as football rankings for this year. They're a top powerhouse. They produce a lot of top recruits every year. That was great to get him in LaSalle, meet the head coach, and start to build a bond and a relationship there. LaSalle was, I mentioned Joey O'Brien a ton on here. Joey O'Brien was at LaSalle. 5-star offensive tackle Grayson McCoo, who is also going to Notre Dame, is at LaSalle now. There was a quarterback, Grayson, or what's the quarterback's name? I forget the quarterback's name offhand. He wasn't really recruited by Penn State much. 4-star, actually committed to Missouri. He committed to either Missouri or Ole Miss. I think it was Missouri. But it was either Missouri or Ole Miss. Anyways, LaSalle gets a lot of talent each year. Campbell was there, building bonds, building relationships. So he's certainly hitting the ground running. When he first got there, it was right about the time to start investing in the portal, looking into the portal. So the concentration for the first few weeks was the portal and bringing over any 26 guys that was we did get some 26 recruits that were going to go commit to Iowa State. Not any big names or big time players, but a lot of kids from Nebraska. I don't know what Matt Rule's doing, but Iowa State got more kids from Nebraska than Nebraska did. I mean, all the top players from Nebraska are going to Iowa State. Anyways, so he concentrated on the portal. He did a very good job there, and now he's on to recruiting, and he's doing what he could. The interesting part is with his approach is because these guys and a lot of the assistant coaches, really besides Terry and Dan Connor and Anthony's, like just the previous coaches that he kept on staff, most of these assistant coaches aren't familiar with the Northeast. They don't have much of a recruiting footprint in the DMV area, in the Northeast, in the Mid-Atlantic. So you're seeing offers go out. Like they offered today a quarterback from Arizona. You would never see that. So we have coaches like our D-line coach came from UCLA. He was always on the West Coast, this guy. I believe he coached in Washington as well. And, all of a sudden we're getting all these offers from Samoans. We never got a bunch of big Samoans, But when there's offers going out to West Coast schools, Midwest schools where they had ties, and that's good. But I also hope they continue, and I'm sure they will, continue to build relationships throughout the DMV. This 27 class in our region in Pennsylvania, the DMV is loaded this year. I mean, it's usually pretty good every year, but this class is really loaded. There's a kid in Downingtown, a defensive end named Abraham Sessi, who's been shooting up the rankings or will shoot up the rankings. He's one I'd watch out for. Now, losing Deion Barnes hurt because Deion Barnes had relationships with some of these kids, and that hurt. But Abraham Sessi, he's kind of raw. He's similar to the Elijah Reader I just showed you, but a little more raw, but has length. He's 6'5", 220, good length, explosive. But the top edge rushers that Penn State was going after under Franklin, that I'm sure they'll go after, that Campbell will go after too, is James Pace from DeMatha in Maryland. He's 6'2", 6'2 and a half. but he's a monster. He's kind of like a Reuben Bain, but like a man amongst boys. Built very physical, strong, quick get off. He's physical, but he has twitch. He's not just a strong side guy that can't move. He has twitch. He's one of the top edge rushers in Maryland. Anthony Sweeney is another edge rusher in Maryland. I think he's around 6'3.5", 6'4", and decent length and just great quick twitch get off. Chris Whitehead in Virginia is another edge rusher, 6'5", 220. Quick twitch, just very twitchy, quick, could bend, decent hands. They're the top edge rushers I would like to see him go after. Offensive line. So Maxwell Heller is one of the top offensive linemen in the country. And he's from Pennsylvania. I think he goes to Coatesville. And losing Phil Troutwine hurts because he had a good relationship with Phil Troutwine. I do think if Phil Troutwine stayed here, we probably would have got Maxwell Heller. No, I'm not saying we don't have a chance at him. He's a swing guy. He's listed as an interior. I think he could be a tackle or an interior player, similar to what Kevin Brown was kind of going to be if we kept Kevin Brown. But he has visits set up to Florida. I'm sure once he goes down there with Troutwine that Florida's going to be behind his list. Penn State has made some headway. Matt Campbell has made some headway. They're building relationships. I don't know. They might have a visit set up with them, but Maxwell Heller's the top. He's the top lineman in Pennsylvania you'd like to get. Other linemen, Jimmy Kalis is from Central Catholic out in Pittsburgh. He's an 4-star offensive tackle. Pretty good prospect. Franklin didn't offer him. I don't know what they saw in him they didn't like, but they didn't offer him. Matt Campbell did. And there's another guy, Terrence Smith, who's the Lansdale area. Offensive tackle, not good size, but has to put on a lot of weight, around 6'5", 270, moves pretty well, but isn't the most physical tackle I've seen. So they're the big names that I know of that they're looking into or hopefully will be looking into. The one odd thing here with Corey, and I almost forgot about this with recruiting, is Peter Bork. Supposedly Peter Bork, who's committed to Michigan, is supposed to be coming to Penn State for a visit. I think it was Friday. I don't know if it was this Friday, next Friday. It must be, I don't know. But anyways, I don't think we're going to get Peter Bork. I would love it if we did. But now that, from reading other things, Kyle Whittingham, the new Michigan coaches, are already forging relationships with Peter Bork, and he's saying he loves the new coaches already at Michigan. And of course, they're all going to say them, the right things. But he is supposed to come for a visit to Penn State. The thing that a lot of Penn State fans cannot understand is there's a quarterback out there named Israel Abrams. You want to pull his huddle up? Israel Abrams. Abrams. So this Israel Abrams is really good. He is, I think he was listed as like the number 3 dual threat quarterback in the country. And what I don't understand about this is he was Iowa State led for him. I think he's from Illinois, and he was going to go to Iowa State. Like everything Iowa State led for him. He had a ton of visits to Iowa State. So the Iowa State coaches know about him. They already scouted him. They already evaluated him. They were going to sign him at Iowa State, but yet they haven't offered him at Penn State. So they're out offering other quarterbacks, and that's fine to go after a guy like Peter Bork because he's a top talent. But they're going after other quarterbacks as well, like this kid from Arizona, I forget his name, that I don't think is the level of this Israel Adams. So I keep saying Abrams. Israel Abrams. And you can say whatever about these visits. I don't know if it's like his top 4 or 5 list or the schools he's concentrating on. And Penn State wasn't one of them. they're trying to get Keegan Croucher. He's looking elsewhere, it seems. Peter Bork is, I think, kind of a long shot. And you got this kid that was ready to commit to you at Iowa State. And I'm just not sure what they're doing with this kid. But that's pretty much my spiel with recruiting. And, something else I just want to mention real quick about NIL. A lot of people talk, how we're talking off air about, Indiana fried people's brains. Everybody thinks you could win with a bunch of 3 stars now. It'll probably never happen again in the history of football. But at least not a school not named Indiana, is you can't pay top NIL to players while they are developing, while they're sitting on the bench their first year or two developing. Well, if they're not on track, you could do that. If they're not on track that you think they should be, year 1, year 2, you don't have to keep paying them. Because, and you could even talk on this, JR, from my understanding, and I think this is under Franklin and just universally with most college football contracts, NIL contracts are year to year, right? Aren't most of them year to year?
Most of them are. Sometimes there's like quarterback contracts will maybe get 2 years,
right.
Especially if they really want to keep the guy around. Like DeMond Williams is technically 2 years, but if he goes to the NFL, then that's
right. So if most of them are year to year, you bring a kid in, like I mentioned this Elijah Reader, okay? I don't know if he's an edge rusher, he's not high rate. I don't know what he'll command in NIL. Probably won't be huge. But say you really like him, he wants a certain NIL deal. Kid has a lot of talent. You give it to him. You track how he's doing. Is he getting stronger? Is he putting on weight? In year 1, is he developing? If he's on track, okay, you could pay him for year 2. If he's not on track, you don't have to keep paying him these big NIL deals. They're year to year. You're not locked into them most deals you're not locked into. Because everybody, like I said, they all now, like Indiana just ruined people's brains where, everybody thinks you just, you don't recruit top talent now. You just go to the portal and you win in the portal and that's it. Well, because they think you can't afford to pay people when they're not working out. Well, there's ways around that, like as I just explained. So does this quarterback look pretty good though?
Yeah, he looks really good. The thing other people also need to understand is that look at the way Indiana's recruiting right now. As much as Indiana, yes, they did win with a bunch of 3 stars and stuff. They're out there going after Jalen. Brewer, Brewster. They're out here going after Monshawn Sales. Like they're going after 5 stars because Signetti knows that. Yes, I was able to win with 3 stars, but it's not just that they 3 stars, but these are some of the best coached, best executing guys that I've ever seen in college football.
Yes.
You don't get a team like that just automatically. Nobody's just going to create that for themselves,
Right. It's the most well-coached team I've ever seen. And to your point is what I think people don't understand is when Signetti first got there, he didn't have the money or the ability when he first got there to attract top talent. It's Indiana. They're not a powerhouse program that could, because of their brand name, that's going to attract top talent. Now that he put Indiana on the map, he has a ton of big investors and a ton of NIL. He's no longer just going out recruiting just little 3. Now he is going big game hunting. So, it was just an amazing coaching job that he did. They don't do anything crazy or like, it's not like this diverse offense. It's not like anything that's super creative. They just execute at a high level. They do everything right. They're not penalized often. They're always in position. It's literally the best coaching job you could find. And, the transfer portal opened in 2018. So if everybody thinks that, Indiana's the way to go now, why has no other national championship teams, why has nobody done what an Indiana did since 2018? Every single, I said I'm not going to talk about, every single past national champion has had a blue chip ratio over 50%, roster made up, majority 4 and 5 stars. So why since 2018, since everybody's, because that's the new thing. Well, it's a different age in college football now. Is it? The transfer portal was open in 2018. So whatever, we'll see what happens. But
I feel like you have to take some things that Indiana has done and apply them, but you can't just, go blueprint for blueprint. Like you can't just say, oh, this is what Indiana did, so we're going to do exactly the same thing they did. Like Ohio State right now. Ohio State is saying we need to go out there and get more players who have played more snaps in college football instead of these young players that we're trying to work on and develop, instead of just throwing them in their first year. They need more snaps. And so instead of keeping a guy like Fahim Delane on the roster, they've gone out and gotten Terry Moore. Now, does he have the ceiling that Fahim Delane does? Probably not, but he could be better than Fahim Delane would be this season. And so that's kind of the way they're operating, is the way that you're talking about. Contracts are year to year. You work at it that way. And if you do have a guy that is a developmental guy, but he's a 5-star and can contribute, you have a whole lot better of an incentive to pay that guy, because maybe he's not a starter on your team, but he can at the very least contribute. A guy like Chaz Coleman would be a great, talking point for this. He could have contributed. Eventually the season didn't go the way people thought it would, but if he would have contributed all season long, he would have earned that even more, that payday that he got, because, not to say he didn't earn it, but just even more, because not only is he also a player with a high ceiling that could develop, but he also contributed while he was there as well.
Yeah, no, that I agree with what you're saying. There's a happy medium. There's a middle spot. And the reason I harp on Indiana is, like, do people realize, like, that they have 9, like, now it wasn't including the portal, they have 9 4-stars on their entire roster. So when I say that's never going to happen again, I mean, like, we're going one extreme to the next. Like, Ohio State last year had a 90% blue chip ratio. Indiana has an 8%, 9 4-star. So when I'm saying there's a happy medium, yes, the whole idea of what Indiana did is you go recruit veteran proven players with production. Okay. You go recruit veteran proven players with production. And that sometimes is better than just some highly ranked kid who's still developing or hasn't panned out. I'm perfectly fine with that. But I'm just saying it was such an extreme of what Indiana did. Like, yes, you might not need an 80% blue chip ratio to win, but maybe you could win with a 50% blue chip ratio. But an 8%, I really don't think you'll ever see that again. Besides, unless it's Indiana, unless it's a Kurt Cignetti coach football team, I don't think you're ever going to see that again. I really don't. You will never see another college football team with a blue chip ratio under 10% win the national championship, if they win it, or even get as far as they did.
Well, and I would tell people that you're never going to see a Nick Saban team with 5 stars all over the bench too, right? Like, you're never going to see a team, unless it's maybe Indiana, if they decide to do it again, you're never going to see a team with a 4% blue chip ratio win the national championship again. You're also never going to see a team, probably have a 95% or higher blue chip ratio, because that's just not the world of college football we live in. Now, maybe if the world changes, sure, maybe that kind of stuff could happen again, but you're talking about 2 major extremes right now, and like you said, you have to probably find the happy medium there in the middle.
Right. Because people misunderstand what I say when I bring up Indiana. Like, it was such an extreme. But yeah,
and it's honestly just how impressive it is what they're doing, right? Like,
it's the best coaching job I've ever seen. They are legit. They deserve all the respect in the world. They got it from the college football world. I mean, it's incredible what they did. It's absolutely incredible. There's sports guys that have been around. I have a father that's 80 years old. This might be the best sports coaching job he's ever seen in any sports of any team in his life. It's really impressive. I think what Brian Haynes did is just as impressive as what Kurt Cignetti did. I think Brian Haynes is the best defense coordinator in football. I mean, the way he contained Ohio State, what he did to Alabama, what he did to Oregon. I mean, it's incredible what this guy did. But yeah, I mean, Ohio State last year at 90%, nobody usually hits 90%. Usually get some teams in the 80s. But you're right. With NIL, teams aren't going to be as loaded. But, it's the happy medium is like what we're talking about.
Yeah, and we'll end with this. Honestly, probably right now, the two best defensive coordinators in college football are probably Bryant Haynes and Corey Heatherman. They're both in the national championship, and they both come from Kirk Cinetti, and that just continues to show how good of a coach he is, and everything else. So, Chris, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, I got to give you credit because I friggin' hated Indiana years ago when you're all over them, man. And I was giving you shit about Indiana, and I guess I was right last year when they played top teams. They kind of got clobbered, but man, this year, what a world! I mean, they're legit. So I got to give you credit. You were all over Indiana first, so props to you, man. Props to your Indiana fans that watch your show, and I wish the Hoosiers luck tomorrow.
Hey man, it's right now it's the best conference in college football, the Big Ten, and Indiana's won it, Ohio State's won it, Michigan's won it. Who knows? Maybe Oregon or Penn State's going to win it next year. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see, man.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching this episode here of the Big Ten Huddle, focusing here on Penn State. We'll bring Chris back for plenty more recruiting and stuff like that here in the off season. Stick with us here at the Big Ten Huddle. We appreciate it. Have a good one.